Hey guys, I have a question for you. Have you ever wondered who wrote the book of Revelation? Well, stick around because we're going to be answering that very question today. So just to say it right off the bat and get it off my chest and, give you the answer that you're looking for, I'm going to answer the question right now. Who wrote the book of Revelation? The answer is very simple. We don't know. We have no idea who wrote the book of Revelation. Okay. Now, there are some explanations as to who wrote the book of Revelation, but quite frankly, we have no idea. So when it comes to dating books and giving authorship and stuff like that, there are two ways that we can do it. Primarily, there's something called internal evidence and there's something called external evidence. Basically, external evidence is other historical writings that were written around the same time that can give us hints or clues, or perhaps maybe directly or indirectly talk about events that would be able to help us date or determine the author. And so when it comes to the book of Revelation, we have a handful of early church fathers who lived, 50, 60, 100, 200, 300 years after the book of Revelation was written. And they all say that it was this guy named John the Apostle, one of Jesus' original disciples. The problem, though, with this whole idea is that if that were true, John the Apostle would be a really old man. He would be very, very old. And so I'm not saying he couldn't have been very old. I'm just saying it's a little bit hard to do that. But even more difficult to deal with the external evidence is how we can actually verify that these early church fathers were telling the truth, because basically the argument that's made by some scholars is to say, well, someone told someone told someone who told someone who told someone who eventually told you that John the Apostle wrote the book of Revelation. Well, obviously we can see that there's some holes in that argument. So how valuable is the external evidence? Well, I'll leave that up to you to decide. When it comes to the internal evidence, what we mean by that is this. We open up the book of Revelation, we read it, we look for clues or hints about who may have written the book, and then we make our decisions from there. The good news, though, is that the book of Revelation tells us that it is somebody named John. I'll show you what I mean. We come here to the book of Revelation. It says, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave to his servants and to speak to him about things that would shortly come to pass. And he gave it to his angels who sent it to his servant John. And then when we come down here to verse 4, it says, John to the seven churches. So we know very clearly that it is somebody named John. But it doesn't tell us who that John actually is. Now, what's very interesting, though, is when we come down here to verse 9. It says, I, John, your brother and co-sharer in the affliction and the kingdom and steadfastness in Jesus, who was on the island of Patmos because of the word of God and the testimony about Jesus. And I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard a great sound coming from behind me like a trumpet, and it said, hey, get a pen and piece of paper and write this down. It's like that old George Strait song, write this down. If you have ever heard that song, let me know in the comments below. So what we have here is lots of different elements happening. Number one, it tells us that somebody named John wrote this book. Okay, now it doesn't tell us which John that is. Just says somebody named John. It's obviously assumed that whoever he's writing this letter to knew who he was. Is there actually any evidence to suggest that this guy was the apostle? Not really. Not internally in the book. I mean, it's not really there. Listen, before we get too far into this video, I just want to take about 20 seconds to tell you about my YouTube channel and why I think you should subscribe. First of all, this is a Bible study channel, and what we do here is study the Bible because we take the Bible seriously and we seriously study the Bible. So if you are looking for an online Bible study that's absolutely free, you just found it. and you can go ahead and click subscribe. Oh, and also I forgot to tell you, my name is Adam Jordan Clark, and I publish a brand new video every single day. And today we're talking about who wrote the book of Revelation, and we're also doing a massive series on the end times, primarily in the book of Revelation. So if you want to know more stuff about the book of Revelation, you can click subscribe when you get a brand new video every single day. So when it comes to who this John is, there really is no evidence at all to say which one it is, or whether or not it's the apostle, or whether or not it's even the same guy who wrote the gospel, or 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. Now, I know that when you go to church and you listen to the church's answer in the tradition of Christianity, they're going to tell you that it's all the same author. The reason why they're suggesting that is because they look at the external evidence. They look at the testimony, which again is someone who told someone who told someone who told someone who eventually told you. If you want to accept that argument as being valid and you think that can be verified, good for you. By all means, keep on doing that. However, I'm not a big fan of those types of things. I hardly ever accept external evidence because they're not very reliable to me. I don't think that they're useful. Now, you don't have to agree with that, but I do. So one thing that's very amazing about this passage is this section right here. And it's amazing because what we will actually be able to do, or what we could do, is we can use this piece of text for two different viewpoints. The first viewpoint that we can use this text for is to say, hey, yes, this is in fact the Apostle John. Why can we say that? Well, because it talks about the affliction and being persecuted and, basically being in the Lord, okay? However, it also tells us about being in the Spirit. However, we can use that same argument in the opposite way and say, well, this is obviously not the Apostle John because it's not directly saying that he hung out with Jesus. So, and the big problem with that argument is very simple. And I know I'm taking myself out here because I'm saying it's not the Apostle John and we can't rely on external evidence. So I'm talking about the internal evidence now, and I'm actually telling you why I could be wrong. Right? So I'm very honest and open in this area. I don't have anything to hide. So the weakest part of my argument, or anybody who makes this argument that's not the Apostle John using this particular text, the weakest area is definitely this idea that John cannot be humble. So what I mean by that is this. It could be that the Apostle John is really the Apostle John who wrote this book of Revelation. Could be that. And it could be that he's so humble, he has so much humility, that he doesn't even want to associate himself with Jesus and knowing him personally. It could be that. It could be. However, the rebuttal to this argument is very, very, very simple. It's very easy to deal with. And that is very simple. If John is really an apostle, and one of the ways that the Christian message can be authenticated is by personally knowing Jesus, then we have ourselves a little bit of a problem, don't we? How can we actually trust what this guy's saying if he's not admitting explicitly that he is an apostle? Okay, if you remember early Christianity, one of the ways that you could authenticate your message is by attributing yourself to Jesus. In other words, you had to say that you were an apostle. There were people who were claiming to be apostles because they knew the power of claiming to be an apostle. So it looked like this. They said, hey, I'm an apostle. I actually knew who Jesus was. Therefore, my message is authenticated. Paul dealt with this. Paul said, hey, look, we got these false apostles who are going around and they're telling people false teachings, but they're really not apostles. I'm the real apostle because Jesus showed up to me on the road to Damascus. Peter's a real apostle because he hung out with him. James and John and Andrew are real apostles because they hung out with him. They knew Jesus. So it's very unlikely. And what I'm saying is this. If John the Apostle actually wrote this book right here, the book of Revelation, the crazy one, if John actually wrote this book, this is really the Apostle John, it's very likely he would have said that because he would have had to authenticate his message in that particular way. He would have not just left it blank and said, well, hey, it's John. No, he would have said, John, a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ, a man who is personally known. And furthermore, this is way after Jesus died. Keep in mind, Jesus died around 30 AD. This is about 100 AD. So we're talking 70, 75 years after the fact. You're going to tell me that this man wasn't telling people that he personally knew Jesus in this massive movement that just went global? I think you're going to have some problems with that argument. Listen, if you like this video, let me know in the comments below. If you want to know more about the authorship and how we can date stuff, how we don't date stuff, let me know in the comments below. Also, I want to know what you think about the authorship of this book. How do you know that it is the Apostle Paul, or the Apostle John who wrote this book? Let me know in the comments below. I have some more playlists up here if you want to go and check them out. Don't forget to click the big red A, because when you do, you subscribe to the channel. Brand new video just like this every single day. And also, don't forget that I'm doing every video every day on the end time stuff, particularly the book of Revelation. So if you want to know more about this book, go ahead and click subscribe. My name's Adam Jordan Clark. Thanks for watching. And as always, I will see you in the next video.